Hello, my fellow Extraordinary Americans. I'm Cosmos Dar, and this is Extraordinary America. What is Extraordinary America about? You see, American identity is about freedom, the opportunity for a better life, and the pursuit of happiness. However, most Americans are not free when it comes to the financial front. Most Americans are suffering from financial slavery due to loss of jobs, stagnant wages, inflation, and debt of all kinds. Wealth and income inequality runs rampant across America, and the middle class is all but disappeared. So what is Extraordinary America about? Extraordinary America is about the abolition of financial slavery. It is about the financial freedom of the 99%. It is about the nation of immigrants and descendants of immigrants awakening and unleashing the extraordinary within themselves and setting themselves free. The path to financial freedom is through entrepreneurship and investing on the light side. It is about financial education, not only when it comes to money in the monetary systems, but also in regards to how to start a business, investing, especially when it comes to precious metals and real estate. In this podcast, I interview guests, many of whom came from humble beginnings, to see how they did it and how they attained financial freedom in their own lives and how they did business. And it is my hope that you will be inspired and you will want to awaken extraordinary within yourselves and realize the American dream. Once again, welcome to Extraordinary America. Welcome back to the show, my fellow Extraordinary Americans. For today's guest, we have Charlene Hughes. Charlene hails from a small town in South Africa and is the founder and principal of Two Red Crows brand storytelling agency. In any given month, they write 100,000 words, all geared for marketing. They write strategic wording for email marketing, lead nurturing, social media, SEO articles, social selling, as well as stories that drive sales. Chirene has a good understanding with regards to how words and storytelling can lead to increase in revenues for businesses, and I'm certainly glad that she's on this show. Chirene, are you there?
Hi, yes, here I am.
Chirene, thank you so much for taking the time to do this show with me. I really appreciate it.
No, it's all my pleasure.
So Chirene, I know you're the founder of this agency, and can you tell me a little bit more about yourself, your background, and how you got started?
Right. We started, when life throws you a curveball? Life threw me three curveballs. I was in a small town and living close to my parents, and they very, very selfishly, they died. Okay, so then I had a child who was he was almost a teenager, and I took him out of school. Long story, I took him out of school, and then the agency that I was working for as a copywriter, they closed down. So the only thing that I could do then was to move closer to family, which is here in Knysna, and start my own thing.
Wow, so I'm really sorry to hear that your parents died at such a young age. But you still came out strong, and then you came out of that on top, and you started your agency. So Chirene, like, what
Listen,
is?
I'm not going to say, sorry, I'm not going to say as I came out on top. We're trying to start a business with no funding when you are emotionally drained because you've lost the people that you love. I don't know if you're an orphan, but it doesn't matter what age you are. When you become an orphan, suddenly there's no backstop. And there you are as an adult, already been an adult for many years, but suddenly there you are as an adult without, it's very emotional. So I don't think I was at top, started at the bottom.
No, I know. I understand, Chirene. And Chirene, what was like your motivational factor to like fight through these dark times and then basically go through your vision of starting your agency ultimately?
Okay, it's basically the mother needs must, because I had a child to feed, and then so I had to do something. And in the town that I was in, there's no opportunity for jobs. What I'm strong at are words. As a copywriter, there are no jobs here. So, I mean, it was a long time ago. It was in 2012. And so I just got on the internet, which is not as sophisticated as it is now, and joined a platform and then did the really revolting jobs. The one at rock bottom prices, do a write an article for, I don't know, even $3 and then work up from there.
Wow. So Shireen, what is one of the greatest lessons you learned during your time doing storytelling for different companies and just basically writing, doing copyright articles and all of that stuff?
Storytelling is different to copywriting and articles. Storytelling is finding the heart of the company. Now, lots of companies have a vision and a mission. That's not the heart. You got to go beyond that because a lot of those are generic. Everybody says they're the best at what they do and they want to have integrity and they want to be. It's very generic. So to go behind that and find out what the heart is, what the story is that everybody in the business can get behind, and all the marketing can be about, and then all the people they interact with can tell that story to other people.
Shireen, you bring up like an amazing point because basically one of the things that a lot of businesses in America, especially, like they're so focused on the products and the services part of it, but they never focus that much on the narrative or the story behind the product and service and how important that is to basically create a brand and to basically ultimately sell their products. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that it's not about just the product or service that you have, it's the story behind it and the story of the founder and from where did they come from and what led up to the moments of it. Like people want to hear a narrative and like a story behind this thing. And so this is where this becomes extremely important, you know?
Sometimes we spend too much effort on the story of the founders, and that is people don't have a big attention span right now. It's become like that because of our social media. So
Mhm.
what works very well is a story about the product. So the product, and then once people are they're using the product or they're becoming loyal to the product, then you introduce the backstory, and then you get them their loyalty, and they become part of the family or the fandom.
Wow. So basically, so let's say somebody wanted to, let's say somebody's doing a business and they have like a product or service, and like you have to advise them on how to like basically write the story behind it, and it could be anything like, and they did not have much understanding about the importance of storytelling in regards to brands. Like, what would you basically advise them on how to go about selling their product?
It's a lot of the time the business owner must be persuaded that a story is the best way to go. And that's very difficult. It's better when somebody has knocked their head and they've come to the realization themselves that a story is a wonderful way to go, because they're educated and they're willing to take the risk of the storytelling. It's a lot of introspection goes into the storytelling, and you have to open your heart to somebody like myself so that I can get to the kernel of the matter. It's difficult to do it for yourself unless you are that way you're actually a storyteller yourself, and even then to write it for yourself is difficult. You're too close. Um, so just letting somebody in to see that can be quite nerve-wracking to people that haven't done that before.
Yeah, I mean it's a lot, right? Because you're basically putting yourself out there, and a lot of people wouldn't want to put themselves out there. But at the same time, it's one of the things that I learned over the years is that it's your story and your background that people actually attach themselves to, right? Because they hear about this thing, and then they take something from that story that is about them, and then that's how they get attached to it altogether.
Interesting you say that, because I'm not fond of speaking to large groups of people. So I said to somebody yesterday who'd done a TED talk, I said, was it difficult for you? She said, sometimes it is, but on that it's not. When this one wasn't difficult, because when she stood up there, she the thought came to her, and she reminded herself of the fact that she was giving a gift. Those people were there to receive the gift. So then it was no longer about herself. It was about the gift she was giving. You could do the same thing with storytelling. Once it's combined into the story, into the narrative that you want to tell, then it's easy to give it away.
Yeah, like Shireen, one of the things that I wanted to share with you was there's a mentor I had that once told me about like the importance of like a narrative and storytelling, right? So he said that there's a lot of talented artists out there who know how to paint and who know how to do drawings, and there's a lot of wines out there, and they just sell for like $10 or $20, right? But he said that but if you put but you could have somebody that doesn't have as good of an art, but they put a story behind it. And it was one of the greatest revelations I ever had in my life, because you have like but you have these people that are selling their art for like $10 or $20, and then there are $10, there's like $50 wine, $100 wine, and then there's some wine bottles that were selling for like more than $1,000, and then there's art that actually sells for like half a million or $1 million. And I asked this mentor of mine, what is it that made this thing go for half a million or $1 million, or like even this art go for so much, right? And these wine bottles sell for all this much, whereas this one, which is it's the same quality, just sold for this. And it's like it is all about the narrative and the story behind it. And I was like, wait, what? It's like when you tell a story behind how the wine bottle came into being or how the art came into being, that basically changes the entire thing. Like there's actually a movie about it called Big Eyes, where this woman like she sells the art and everything, but but she was the artist that did all that, but her husband knew how to sell it with a story, and they just made millions of dollars out of it. And it was like it's just something that I wanted to share with you, because it was like the biggest revelation I had about how important words and storytelling and narrative is to the same product. Because you could have the same thing, like you could have people that are much more better quality than you, and then they will not do the same, like they will not sell for as much, you know.
It's perception of value. So if people perceive the value of it, they're willing to pay more, even if it's the same thing. It depends on the packaging, depends on where on the shelf it is, it depends on whether it's a limited availability. But also, as you say, it is the story behind it. So if you can ignite a person's imagination about the product, or their feeling of loyalty, or their hunger of some sort to want to have the same thing that your story is promising, that ups the perception of value. People will pay much more for something that they are emotionally connected with, and that's what storytelling does.
Shireen, you hit the nail right in the head. Like it's one of the reasons I want to have you on the show, because I want the audience to know the importance of how storytelling and branding can actually increase the value of the product. Because it's all about perceived value. It's how people perceive your product. Like, and then there's like two different modes of thought, right? Like there's some business people that are like, they're the product oriented approach. Like it's all about the quality of the product. The product sells for itself. And then there's others that are the market oriented approach, and it's all about the perception of the product. But then there's the people that realize that it's about the quality, and it's also about the branding, and you combine the two together, and that's what creates everything. But I don't know, what are your thoughts on
Well,
that?
well, think about it. It's a very marketplace is very noisy. So you've got to get attention in the first place. And I can tell you a story about two red crows for that. Um, Initially, I had a partner in the business. We started it together. And if you've ever tried to name a company, you will know how difficult it is. We had one criteria that we wanted it to have red in the name. So we went through lists and lists. Now you've got the problem of the name that suits both of you, plus the fact that you've got to buy a domain. So lots of things are already gone, and you've got to register it. So lots of things are gone there as well. So we narrowed it down. It took us ages and ages. We narrowed it down to two names. And so now, obviously, we want to test it on people. We're very excited. So the closest people was a bunch of teenage boys in the kitchen. And you know how teenage boys are. The fridge opens, the fridge closes. And there's just noise and absolute chaos. So we walk in there and we say, can we have your attention? Which is like, yeah, maybe, but they carry on with what they're doing. But you know, that's about as much attention as you're going to get. So we say, okay, we've got a name for the business. And they, yeah, okay, what? So we say, the Susie Crimson Agency. Silence. And the youngest one, who must have been 11, pipes up, what? Are you guys porn stars now?
Whoa.
Which, I mean, it's young. We decided right then and there, we take the next name on the list, whatever it is, and that is Two Red Crows. Now, the reason I tell you the story is because I tell it often, and people remember it then, because it's an unusual name, firstly, but it's got a story behind it. So they always remember the story, and after I've been at a conference or a workshop, people come up and they speak about it. There's an entry to a conversation.
I see. No, that is very interesting how like came into being, and yeah, I can clearly see like how it'll affect like the perception, you know. And Chirene, there's one question I wanted to ask you, right? Right now in today's world, the internet has become like a place where there's so many eyes. It's so difficult for people to basically look at like you need to have like a good headline before they even read the story behind your product. So how what is your opinion on how to get people to like look at the like to get enough attention on your story long enough amongst the so many other people that are out there?
Listen, now you're up against the SEO debate. You know, where's your traffic coming from in the first place? So let's imagine that the traffic actually hits your site. There, the story must be immediately available, immediately there in the hero banner, um, in the look and feel, depending on the person that you're talking to. That's the most important thing. Who is your audience? If you know who's coming to visit, then you'll know what type of welcome mat to put out.
No, Chirene, what you're saying is absolutely true. So one of the things that we have to understand is the avatar. Like who are we basically, who is our target audience? And a lot of people like a lot of business owners, like it seems like common knowledge, but a lot of business owners like they fail to understand who their target audience is because they're so invested and attached to their product or service. But without knowing
You know what
that,
I find is that people, if I ask them who's your target audience, they say, well, everybody. No, that's not right. You have to get it right down to the exact person in your imagination that would be sitting there and reading your story or using your product. And it doesn't have to be just one person. You'll then segment your products into your marketing into several niches, depending on the type of people. So, for example, you might have teenagers and old gentlemen, two different things. You can't give them the same story. They won't even hear it. So you've got to get, even if you've now packaged it differently, the story that behind it must be different as well.
no, yeah, like so you basically have to tune to you have to know your target audience and you got to tune to what they're looking for and what they want and you got to craft the story accordingly. Yeah, I know like it seems like common sense, but a lot of people don't do that. But it's like the difference between a massive increase in sales and just like a normality, you know?
Mm, mm.
And so Chirene, what was the biggest challenge you faced during like your time, like creating your agency and running your agency, or like what is the biggest challenge you think business owners face, and how do you think they should go about overcoming it, especially with regards to storytelling?
It's a difficult question because if you start with nothing, start from zero, then you walk each part of the business yourself. until you get big enough to get assistance in different parts of the business. So, for example, I started out being the sole copywriter, plus the lead generator, plus the salesperson, plus the admin. So, but as I got more, it's a very difficult thing to get to that stage where you've got enough business to need somebody else, but at the same time you don't have enough to pay someone else. So you've got to take the risk there of how you're going to manage that, how you're going to scale that. At the same time, it's something like what we do. It's difficult to find people that can tell a story. And storytelling starts with listening. If you can hear the story behind, you've got to be quiet enough to hear the story behind what the person or what the business owner is saying. So to find quiet people that absorb and then can give it back is very difficult.
I see. So, no, that's that. So what you're saying is true. Like, there's very few people that can tell, like how to tell a story. But like that makes me ask a question, Shireen. Like, what is the difference? Like, from your perception, what is the difference between a good story and a bad story? Like, what are the hallmarks or the traits or the requirements? Like when you're reading a story and you're like, okay, this is a good story, and then you read this story and it's like, okay, this doesn't work.
All right, it's simple. The simpler, the better. If you can tell that same story to a child and to an adult, to your cat, to whoever, and it's simple to understand, then you've hit the nail on the head.
I see.
And that can take several iterations, but don't be frightened of that. You'll start off with 100,000 words, exaggeration, obviously. You'll start off big, trying to, and as the years go by, you'll get it down to what you want as your business changes. But don't be afraid of starting with a minimal viable product, because it is going to grow with you. What we try to do our goal when we do stories for people is to get it down to the story, to get it down to who they are now, but with enough stuff in it so that it's self-fulfilling, so that it grows with them and the narrative arc goes with them. So it encompasses a vision as well as where they are at this minute.
I see. No, like what you're saying about vision is absolutely right. And there was something else I wanted to ask on top of that, right? Like, so a lot of people talk about the hero's journey, right? Like, like when they talk about Star Wars and they talk about or like Lord of the Rings, and they have the Luke Skywalker or Frodo, like they go on this journey. And then there's a specific sequence of steps where the person is reluctant to go on the journey, but then the mentor comes in and then drags him onto the journey. He goes through the trials and tribulations, and then basically ultimately he overcomes the villain, and then he realizes all these lessons and he comes back to his native thing and he teaches it. So my question to you is like, what is your opinion on the hero's journey archetype, like when it comes to like storytelling, and like are there other archetypes out there that are as successful to it?
Um, Firstly, not everybody wants to be a hero. Some people are more comfortable being the ordinary person, being the ordinary product that you use every day. It's not a sexy product. It's the toilet paper of the world. It is, everybody needs it. They don't have to be flash. Some people are more comfortable there. Their brand is made for that. And then a hero story doesn't really apply. We don't go with the hero story. We, because it's more marketing, a storytelling for brand storytelling is more a marketing tool than it is actual emotional story for the person. You can anthropomorphize the product, but we take that one step back and we say it's a theory of constraints idea. We'll use the 9 layers of buy-in or the 9 layers of resistance. So the way a person first comes to to a product is it's invisible to them. They've never seen it. They don't care. Then the next step is that you go through these 9 resistance areas from, oh, so it exists. Why is it good for me? All the way through to, okay, I've seen that there are, this is the kind of product I want. So let me weigh up which one between, let me get to, is this one better than that one? And you weigh up the pros and cons of the product. So in each step, there's a specific resistance to taking the next step. And that's what we mold into the storytelling.
Wow. So it's really interesting you said that there's the 9 layers of resistance because that's something that most people don't know about. Like, can you elaborate a little bit more about that? Like after the invisible part, just so the audience can have a little idea of what it is.
Okay. So say there's a product that you have no clue exists. Okay, you don't even have a need for the product. And you come across it somewhere. You think, oh, okay, now I know that product exists, but so what? So that's the first resistance. Now you've got to say to people, this product could be useful to you. So they get to, the story takes them to the point where they say, oh, right, well, maybe I'll use it, it'll be useful to me. Then they get to but why should I use it? Why should I do any more investigation? Then you start to introduce the fact of the benefits of the product for them specifically. And then they think, okay, well, that's a good product, but why should I use this particular product, this particular brand? And then you take them through the comparisons of different brands, why yours is best, why, and you tell it in a story way, of course. And then after that, then they want to know, okay, so that looks good, but can I trust this product? If I buy it, will there be, is there after sales service? Is there, what is the behind the support of the product and what's in it for me? And so then you've got to work with that to tell them that we're there for you. And so you go all the way up until you get to the psychological, where people just say, not for me, because the risk. So then you've got to mitigate the risk. You've got to say why they should spend all this money on your particular product.
Wow. Chirene, you just blew my mind over here because like yeah, you basically like understand the psychology of the buyer, but at the same time, like you're doing it within the context of a story, but it's going into the subconscious realms of like the process of how this is like something that every person that's trying to sell their product or business online should know. Because like yeah, like even I didn't know about like the different layers on that level, you know?
It's great for if you're a negotiator. So if you're nurturing sales, or if you're nurturing customers, even if you're working with kids and you're trying to persuade them to do a certain thing, and you can work through those layers.
I see. Like, were there any like books or anything that you read that helped you get to this part where you understood how to write the stories? Just like, let's say somebody wanted to go into your industry and they wanted to know, okay, what do I have to learn to get a basic understanding of storytelling? Like, how would you advise them on like what books to read or like what processes to take or what steps to take?
Okay, don't hate me, but just start. I haven't got any education in it at all. So I always knew that I wanted to write, um, and I'm a storyteller, and so it grew from there. So I say to people, then find somebody who can help you, who you can talk to about it. Read more, anything, so that you can understand how a story works. Get into the industry, become a copywriter, and from there learn. Just try. look inside yourself. I often say that people put education in the way. So find something that inspires you and let that passion drive you. But you don't have to look at books and find the way that somebody else has done it. I'm not saying that that's not valuable. I'm on Google all the time. I remember when I started, I had to write some speeches, and I had no cooking clue about how to do that. And I had to look at, do some research, but I had the confidence that I'm good with words, and so I'll be able to do it. So get the inspiration, tap into that, and try.
Okay. No, I mean, you're right. You have to take action first. Like what you're saying is you jump into the pool and then you figure out how to swim. Like, yeah, that's a lot of people like they just want to like put the toe in first, see if the water is cold or if is it lukewarm, and then they slowly get in. But like your approach, like it makes sense, you know?
But the caveat is that with brand storytelling is that with any marketing is you're writing it for the client. The client may hate what you did. Don't be disheartened because you liked what that was and that grew. Then you have to rewrite it for the client in the way that the client wants it. That's just how it happens.
I see. So Shireen, another thing I wanted to ask is like, what is one thing you like? Let's say you could go back in time and talk to your teenage self with all the wisdom and knowledge that you have right now. What advice would you give that the teenage version of you right now, knowing everything you've gone through over your life?
I'd say don't be frightened. Make the mistakes. Um, it's difficult to say this because the world has changed so much, and opportunities that were back then are not the same as now. And it was so much slower. But I would say, yeah, just speak to the right people. Just get out there, be seen.
No, yeah. That's actually one of the reasons why I do this podcast, because a lot of people want to be like financially free and everything, but they're frightened and they're afraid of the risks of doing a business, and basically they don't do it until they there's a have to situation. But that's the only way we can attain like true freedom, or like be able to influence our own choices, you know? Because that's ultimately like you would want to be the master of your own fate, and like this is the way to do that. So like not being afraid and taking those chances are part of that, you know?
Interestingly, I do not like being in a box. And I know this because I always wear flat shoes so that I can run. And I haven't run in, I don't know, 20 years. I still wear flat shoes.
That is awesome, Shereen. So Shereen, can you tell me and the audience a little bit more about the premise of how your agency started? And I know you told a little bit about it, but if you could just elaborate on that so the audience can get a better idea of your agency.
Because we started directly as um, online based, um, it started off being a bit anonymous. So you have to work really hard at being able to do good connections with people over Zoom. We have been through many iterations. What usually happens for us is it's a cycle. We go, we expand, get a lot of people, and then we have to take a step back. Because the nature of writers, and you may not know this, they disappear. They work and work and they give everything. And then one day they're gone. And at the beginning, that was really disconcerting. But it's just the nature of them. They go along and then suddenly they go on walkabout. And they'll come back in about a year, 6 months, 2 weeks. You never know how long it's going to take them to recharge themselves. Um, So we had to work out how to feel when that's going to happen. And our editor is brilliant at that. And you have other writers in the wings so that they're ready to pick up where that writer has dropped the ball. And every client is different. So you have to have a team working on a particular client. Now, that's difficult when you can't find the right talent. And on top of which, if you're growing a business, you don't want to be doing the work yourself. You have to step back. You have to be the architect. And it's very difficult to do both, the architect and the working, and try to find the talent. So the first thing that you do is that you find somebody they don't have to be as good as you at things. You just have to be able to, they must be able to jump in and take some of the burden away from you. And as you go along, you'll then find people to give another little bit of the burden away to. And even if they are part-time, the internet's great for that. You can get freelancers. They only do 2 hours a week or they do 30 minutes a day. That will save your sanity. And all that time you'll be able to put into your business and grow it.
No, totally. Like, the goal is to ultimately like not micromanage everything, but it's just so difficult at the beginning when you have like limited funds and then you got to figure it out. The transition process, to be like the person who's the architect that sees everything. Whereas like but in the beginning you have to micromanage, but it's a transition that is difficult for a lot of people, you know?
What we did is because you're writing so many articles, and we'll get back to the fact that AI has taken that work away from us. At the beginning, we needed a huge workforce because it takes a while to write an article and you have to get into it, and for so many reasons. So, and it's rock bottom prices. It's an embarrassing amount that you can pay people. But the type of people that we worked with then were pensioners that needed something to do, students that needed some income whilst they were studying, moms in the afternoons when they're sitting in the car waiting for their kids. And what we did is we mentored them. We mentor them through it. So our goal being that they'll get sick of this work once they have learned how to do SEO, how to write for a particular niche, all the things that you need in order to take the next step and get a better paying job. So now you've graduated and you can have that on your CV and it's useful to you. So that was the only additional thing that we could give them, which is of value to make up and to actually exceed what they would ordinarily be paid a good wage, a superior wage.
That is awesome, Chirene. Yeah, that is.
So what I'm saying is, if you don't have the money to begin with, look for something else of value that you can exchange for the work.
You bring up a good point because yeah, like it's not just monetary value. Like you can give your education, your opportunity, knowledge of and expertise, and you can exchange a certain amount of hours for that. And because not everybody's going to have all those resources at the beginning. So what you're saying is absolutely right, and it is a good strategy to use in the beginning when you're building your business from scratch. You know. So Chirene, how can our audience connect with you and get to know more about you and your agency and the work that you're doing?
They should just reach out and send me an email.
Okay. What would be that email that they can reach out to you on?
Okay, it's Chirene at tworedcrows.co.za. And you spell Chirene Chirene, and there's a story behind that as well.
Okay. Would you want to share that story?
Let me tell you the story so that you remember how to spell it. Because I was born in the 60s, and my mom's name was Irene, and my father's name is Chris. So they just shoved it together, and that made Chirene. Chirene.
Wow, that is awesome. You just gave me an understanding of storytelling right over there. Yeah, that is interesting. Okay, Shireen. So Shireen, I'm really grateful and glad that you took the time to do this podcast with me and share your understanding of storytelling and its application to brand and business. Because what you just shared with us is so important that most people don't realize it. It's the narrative and the storytelling behind your product and service that dramatically increase sales. And we as business owners must definitely make an effort to understand how that is done. And so I really appreciate that you took the time.
You're welcome. And one last thing is, if people contact me, um, sometimes it's best to just talk to someone and find out what storytelling is about. And I'm happy to do that. Just send me a mail, and I'll send you my Calendly, and we can have a chat.
That is all awesome, Shireen. Thank you so much. And I would want you to certainly come back at a later time on this show. Like, I really appreciate you sharing your wisdom.
Oh, that'll be fun. Thank you.
And I want to conclude this episode by letting my fellow extraordinary Americans know that, hey, look, there's an extraordinary within each and every one of us, and it's our duty to awaken it and unleash it. Until next time, bye for now. Hey everyone, thank you for watching Exploring America. If you like what you see, please do subscribe to our podcast and share it with others. Remember that the best investment that you can make in your lifetime is in your own financial education, for it is knowledge that truly sets us free. Also, remember that inflation is diluting your purchasing power, which in turn increases financial bondage. The practical thing to do is to protect the loss of your purchasing power and invest in precious metals or the right cryptocurrencies. Lastly, never forget that you are an extraordinary American. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.